Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. In case you're wondering, yes, you read the title of this video correctly. Even though it is somewhat outside of my wheelhouse, uh, for the sake of this week's video, I am going to be reviewing The Second Sex. Originally written by Simone de Beauvoir and published in 1949, my review is actually based on Random House's Vintage Classics 2010 release, which has been translated into English by Constance Bord and Sheila Malovani Chevalier. I assume that's how those names are spoken. So if there are some errors within the text, in spite of the very well documented and well intentioned translation efforts, that's perhaps bound to happen. But I'm also pretty sure that they're bound to be quite small as well. The broad strokes of the broad strokes of the content should be should at least be about the same. I thought it would be a fitting book to to review for the day of this video's release, only for me to discover after I started that it is perhaps the most complex book I have ever read, and not just to review on this channel, but in general all throughout my life. What does that say about its quality, however? Well, the TLDW for this review is it's impossible to summarize this book without sounding overly generic. Like, Beauvoir has a very specific idea about the topic she wants to talk about, and how it is that she wants to approach it. It might not be as granular or as specific as some people might expect from a philosophy book. However, when looking at the sheer variety and interactivity of all the factors which she takes into account when presenting and formulating her arguments, it is actually the result ends up being an amazing analysis, both in terms of how it uses the information that goes in, and from how it is put together and presented. Not all of its aspects work particularly well. There are some parts where the Beauvoir talks about gender nonconformity and queer identities that hasn't really aged well, if I am to be perfectly honest. But still, the overall message of the book should still stand strong. What do I mean by that? Well, that's what the long-form version of this review is going to cover. The book is split across 2 volumes. The first one being Facts and Myths, and the second one being Lived Experiences. Facts and Myths explores, to some extent, the sexual dimorphism present within humanity, as well as some of its manifestations. Nothing very specific, but going somewhat broadly. This is where the Beauvoir lays out her non-sociological underpinnings for the analysis that she tries to put together and present. Going into the biological factors that separate male from female, and not just in humans, but also in various other forms of living beings. Before delving a little bit into history and exploring how various societies have shaped gender dynamics in order to suit their interests. While I was reading through this segment, while it was a well-written and well-presented one, I still found myself wondering, hoping, wishing that certain historical sources or a certain category of historical resources would have been used more broadly. But then I remembered there are more than 70 years of historical research between the time she wrote the book and the time I'm reading it. So it's somewhat understandable if she doesn't employ the things I necessarily expect from her or would associate with the topic, because it's likely she wouldn't have known about it even if she would have wanted to use them. What is somewhat more interesting, however, and more telling, is how she is able to look into the way various people and various philosophies have have shaped woman as a symbol, as a representation, as an archetype. And when analyzing and how she carries out her analysis of this archetype through the lens of its utility within that specific philosophy or those specific philosophies, and then by delving into how it is that all of these archetypes are incorrect representations of women, or in how all of them uh, make some kind of assessment or presentation error when or really even assumption error when talking about women, or when putting together this idealized representation in order for in order for it to be integrated within its framework, which arguably begs the question of what the correct way to look at women is. And interesting as those aspects may be, it is the core of this book nevertheless lies within its second volume, which unsurprisingly is almost twice as big as the first one, where the Beauvoir goes through every stage of the human female's lifespan, from infancy to grandmotherhood, and explores how the various aspects that have shape her external life end up shaping her internal life, her personal development, her sense of self, and that happens both through forceful means and through ignorant negligence. It is within this part of this book that the Beauvoir's style, flair, and insight really comes to light when she looks into how a girl's, and then later a woman's understanding of her capabilities and her potential actions are shaped partly by her caretakers, partly by the environment around her. It is, however, within this within the second volume that a lot of the problems that this book has come to light, because Beauvoir mentions at some points that certain behaviors lead to women becoming lesbian, sadists, or masochists, which, yeah, we now know that that's not the case. Us as a society know that's not necessarily the case, and perhaps it might be more accurate to call these examples that Beauvoir comes up with as maladjusted behaviors in response to the mistreatment and abuse that women face. She is quite adamant when it comes to those aspects, but it turns out from a psychological standpoint, I think she doesn't really have the vocabulary to really put her arguments together. Nevertheless, she is quite proficient in terms of other aspects of bringing her arguments together. For example, she's quite adept at paralleling the mistreatment and oppression women face within society with the kinds of oppression that other groups face within society. Other groups such as people of color, Jewish people, at least at the time, as well as surprisingly workers. This is this book has a very distinct Marxist bent whenever it covers this topic, and the ways in which she manages to build those parallels and present her conclusions is very telling. The conclusion of this book is a very, very eloquent summation of all of the arguments and viewpoints that this book had presented up until that point, and within its and it is within its endpoints, with its endpoint that it represents her philosophical ideal for society, and I think it is really the formulation of that philosophical ideal which pulls everything else that she has described and has leaned into all throughout the book, that I think really allow it to stand the test of time and really prove the utility of gender theory and sociology. Overall, even though some aspects of the content of this book aren't as well developed as they could have been, that does little to detract from the overall quality this book has, and from its overall importance in terms of how it describes the role of the roles of women within, and the means through which they can be brought in to cooperate and participate within society. My final rating for The Second Sex is a 5 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation and the Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. Additionally, you have the option of supporting me on Patreon, where depending on the level at which you pledge, you will receive various perks, the specifics of which I will allow you to find out for yourselves. I also have a second channel where I talk about whatever else interests me, in case that's something you might you might want to see. If not, then you're just as welcome to stay on this channel and look through my rather extensive backlog, if I can say so myself. Anyway, until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.